It's nice to be back here. I actually went to school here for both my bachelor's and my master's degree. Yeah, I had to do it twice. I don't know why. Just that was a good idea at the time, right? But I won't tell you when I graduate because it was a really long time ago. So I've worked for the Forest Service for actually 27 years, believe it or not. I know, I still look like I'm in my 20s, right? So it's really hard to believe, yes, 27. I have worked in fire, trails, wilderness recreation, silviculture primarily was what I did, and then became a district ranger and did that job for about 12 years. I have to say that was absolutely the best job, my favorite job. But the point that I want to make with my background is that I have been a hiring manager just about my entire career, where I've hired lots and lots of folks, particularly as a district ranger. In the summertime when we'd hire our full seasonal folks, you know, I would be hiring and supervising anywhere between 40 to 60 individuals in the height of the fire season. So I've done a lot of this, and so the tips and tricks that I'm going to give you come from my background as a hiring manager, but also are designed so that you are in the here and now, and that you, when you start applying for Forest Service jobs, that you are going to, you know, have the best information going forward at this point in time. So that's a little bit about me, and what I'm going to do is basically speak from our website, and you can see it there, so definitely write that down. Those of you that see my sign-up sheet, if you want to be put on my weekly email list to get job information updates, definitely sign up there with your email, and then you're going to get a follow-up email from me probably tomorrow or Monday, where I'll have this website plus some of the other things that we're going to talk about today. So you'll get all this in your inbox if you sign up. For those of you that are in Zoom, if you want to privately message me now with your email address, I can certainly do the same with you. So that's easy enough. All right, so I cover Region 1, which is all of Montana, parts of the Dakotas, and North Idaho. But I also just started serving in the last month or so at the national scale, and so helping to do some of the national work with regards to pathways, which I'm going to talk about here in just a moment. So that's kind of exciting to be part of that as well. So most of the information and the jobs that I'm going to specifically talk about with you guys are jobs about Region 1. And hopefully that's going to be good for you, but yet everything that I talk about here, from tips and tricks, these kinds of things, all of that is going to be something you can apply to any job in the Forest Service nationwide. So there's that. All right, well, let's get started on the bulk of the program. So this website here, again, is Forest Service, Region 1. I think I'm going to go ahead and, yeah. Hopefully this will let me know when we get a new chat in. Oh, dark garnet, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. Okay, so this is our Region 1 website, and again, everything that I'm going to talk about is you can find on this website, so it's an easy place to go to and have, you know, at least this saved in your favorites, so that you'll have this, and then everything else is going to be on this page. You don't need to separately, you know, save favorites there. So let me just quickly talk about the kinds of jobs that we have available. The first group is called, you know, our permanent jobs. These are those jobs that are exactly permanent in nature. They come with all the benefits and things like that. And so our permanent jobs, you know, we used to, before a hiring freeze, we started a hiring freeze around end of November, December of last year. And we actually are not in that hiring freeze anymore, but we have not started hiring like we used to. We just have not gotten back up to full speed yet. And I'm not sure when we're going to either. That's not up to me. So we're waiting for the opportunity to hire like we used to. We have lots and lots of vacancies. But certainly before the hiring freeze, I would tell people that the Forest Service, because of the amount of retirements that are occurring in our agency, roughly a third of our agency is at retirement age right now, and so it's creating a lot of domino effects. And so certainly in my career, I have never seen this much opportunity for jobs in the Forest Service. I just know when I graduated from college, it was very few and far between. You were like super lucky to get a permanent job with the Forest Service. It was pretty coveted. But nowadays, certainly if we can, get over the freeze here and start hiring like we once did, certainly the opportunities really are endless out there, and I anticipate that being the case in the next 5 to 10 years, because that's probably the length of how long it's going to take for that 30% to fully retire. So anyway, lots of opportunities. So that's permanent jobs. The one I'm going to speak to the most today is our temporary or our seasonal jobs. And these are the jobs that you as students, I hope, are interested in applying to. These are perfect because they do allow you to come work for the Forest Service in some sort of capacity while you are on summer break. They allow you to finish up your spring semester, come work for us, and then go back to school when you need to back in the fall. I know a number of universities, particularly with natural resource degrees, require you to have some sort of internship before you graduate. And so I get a lot of calls from students saying, do you have an internship available? I'd really like to come and volunteer. And here's what I'm going to tell you. The secret is you don't need to volunteer. Okay? That's ridiculous. Come work for us. You will get valuable experience and you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid really, really well. Okay? So Forest Service jobs pay very well, and it's better than McDonald's, that's for sure. So come work for us, get a paid job, and it will fulfill your requirement for your internship before you graduate. Okay? So our temporary positions actually start coming out on January 3rd. I know, isn't that a terrible time frame? But that's why I do these sessions, is to get you guys ready for these when they do come out right after the first of the year. So January 3rd will be our fire positions, so all firefighter jobs, fire management type jobs, working in dispatch, working in fire prevention. All of those will be starting January 3rd, as well as our wilderness and trails jobs. Okay? The next grouping of jobs will actually come out in February, and that's for all the other temporary jobs we have. So we hire biological technicians that work for fisheries biologists or wildlife biologists. We hire engineering technicians. We hire archaeologist technicians. You name it. Any of the ologist kinds of fields that you are thinking about, we do end up hiring technicians to help us basically with collecting data and gathering that during the field season so that we have that ready to go for analysis in the wintertime for our professionals. So hydrology, any others out here that you guys are interested in job-wise, that you have questions that, hey, do you hire this? Silviculture technicians, we call them forestry technicians, so they could be in either timber or in silviculture. Either of those are good for you if you're looking at a career in silviculture. Okay, any others? I hit most of you, right? Okay, so those will come out in February. I will say in Region 2, which covers Wyoming and Colorado, their positions, actually all of their positions, because they don't have as many as we do, all of their positions actually come out on December 15th. So don't have much time if you're wanting to put in for one of those. But again, all the information that I share with you today is going to help you with those positions as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I wanted to jump into our pathways positions. And we have not hired a lot of pathways positions in the past, and yet we are really gearing up to do so. And in fact, we are doing an event right now in Albuquerque where we're hiring some of these positions. And so you might have heard about that, particularly if you were on my email list. But in any case, the two different kinds of positions that we tend to hire the most of are what we call these pathways indefinite interns. And what these positions are is they are actually permanent positions in nature. We hire you as like a freshman, sophomore, maybe first year, your first semester of your junior year. But we try to hire students that still have, a couple of years to complete their degree. And so we hire you, we allow you to go to school, But when you are not in school, so summer breaks, or if for some reason you needed to take a semester off for whatever reason, we want you to work for us. And we train you for the job that we want to convert you into permanently. And those jobs tend to be set up so that they are like a GS 5, 7, 9 if they're professional jobs. Some of them are technical positions, so those could be set up as a GS maybe 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, you know. So what I'm saying is you start out at that lowest grade and begin to work yourself up you know, over time, and then get converted into that permanent position at that top grade level. So that's a pretty sweet arrangement. And I have to say, that's what I got when I was in college. I landed one of those positions. It was called something very, very different back then, but that is what I had gotten and finished my college years and was converted to a GS9 forester in silviculture and launched my career in a big way. So these jobs are huge. They're awesome. The next grouping is what we call our recent graduate pathways positions, and they're designed similarly, only they're for students that have recently graduated, and you're eligible to apply for those 2 years after you graduate. So more or less same thing. They're kind of structured the same way, 5, 7, 9. Some of these positions are meant for those getting their master's degree. So some of them will be designed as a 7, 9, 11. So just kind of depends on the job, and so look for those recent graduate positions as you get close to your last semester of your senior year, and then certainly 2 years after you graduate. Yeah, question?
Could you explain the GS system a little bit?
I will, and I'm going to get into that here in just a minute. So thank you for that question, and I will get there. Okay, the last grouping is what we call fire hire, and I'm not going to go over this a whole lot today. For one, it's over now. The event is over. It ran from November 1st through the 15th. It ended yesterday. But these are for our permanent fire positions, GS5 through GS9. These positions, for the most part, do require you to have some experience in fire. And so that's why I don't typically talk about them on college campuses, because most of you don't, or if you do have some experience, you possibly don't have enough to qualify as a GS5. And that's all good, because you'll get there. But for those of you that are thinking about, you know, entry-level fire jobs, permanent fire jobs in the future, fire is definitely the career that you want to get into. Certainly, let's visit offline and visit more about developing your career and making sure you've got the best situation going forward so that you can apply for these next year. Okay? All right. So, how do you find a Forest Service job? So there are two things that I want you to be aware of, and they're basically online, and you can go and visit these things, and I would actually suggest you go and visit these once a week. Sometimes twice a week is good too. So we have what we call a outreach database, and so the link is right here on this website, and I'm going to open it up in a new tab. Let's see. Wish I could get that thing to go away. I wonder how. There we go. I'm going to put it towards the bottom here. Okay, so this is our outreach database. This is essentially, again, this is a national database. This is essentially where we will list all of the jobs that we hope to fill at some point in time. Okay, this is not where you go and find out which jobs are being currently advertised. This is not where you go to apply for those jobs. It's basically a pre-advertisement database. So that's very valuable, and here's why. First of all, it gives you a sense of, you know, all the positions that are coming forward. So you look at all these temporary jobs, you can see that Region 2 is getting very excited about their jobs coming out on the 15th of December. And so let's just go into one of these, because this is kind of fun. Who wants to work in Hill City, South Dakota? GS5? Oh, let's not do a 5. Let's do a 3. Most of you can apply for a GS3, I'm sure. Okay, so you can click on this, and you can get some valuable information. Obviously, duty station, what grade level, I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. But here's the big thing right here. This is the hiring manager's name phone number, and email. Okay, so if you leave here with just only one thing in your brain, this is the most important thing to get a job with the Forest Service. Any job. Doesn't matter if it's temporary, if it's pathways, if it's permanent, if it's fire hire. Any job with the Forest Service is to call the hiring manager. Not email, call them, or show up in person if it's local. Okay? Why is that so important? Puts a face with a name, right? That's very, very helpful, but also why? Yeah, that's the biggest reason. It shows initiative. Okay, hiring managers want to hear from people that really want their job. Okay, hiring is just about the most important thing that we do, and so we are constantly trying to find, the best fit, the most, talented and qualified individuals, that want to be part of our organization. Okay, so we want to hear from you. If you really want our job, then you better be calling us and, hey, I want to come to do this job. I really think this location is awesome. I'm really excited. I want a career in fire. I want a career in whatever. This is how I see myself moving forward, and this job is going to help me get there. Those are the kinds of things that you can tell that hiring manager. But you can also ask a lot of good questions too. So what kinds of questions would you ask? I'm helping you out here because most of you are really nervous to call a hiring manager. I know that. I was once you. So what questions would you ask? Yeah, certainly you can ask, what's a typical day look like? What kinds of projects would we be working on this summer? Yeah, that's great. Showing interest in the job, that's great. Yeah, what else would you say? When do I start? Yeah, tell them, you're in college. Here's when I could start. When can you start? So you can ask them that. You can ask them about housing. How many of you are going to probably need government housing if you take one of these jobs? Okay, not every temporary summer job has got housing associated with it. So that's something you can find out and determine there. Okay, you can ask them what kinds of skills and knowledge that they're looking for in hiring this position, right? Okay, so all of those things are great to ask questions about, but be prepared, get your questions written down so you're not so nervous, and you can just start having a great conversation with this hiring manager. And yes, it puts a name or a voice with a name, sometimes a face with a name if you're able to do that in person, and that is going to help set you apart from everybody else. You got to know, particularly for these temporary jobs, we can end up with 30 to 200 people applying for one job, okay? And so it's really important for you to do whatever you can to help separate yourself from the pack. And I'm going to talk about other ways to do that as well, okay? All right, so the other things in this database also talk about what the announcement number potentially might be in USAJobs. So this is important for you to know. And then a lot of times there's a document attached, and it would be great if you'd open that up because that's going to tell you more about the job, the location, could help answer some questions about housing and things like that too, okay? So that's the outreach database. And then the other place that you must go to is USAJobs, okay? Every federal job in the United States is advertised here. It's the only place that you can go and apply for a job with the federal force or with the federal service, including the Forest Service, okay? So this, you can use the search parameters, same as with the outreach database. So there's, up here there are ways that you can search for jobs. Most of you are probably going to use, the city and state to use to help narrow down the jobs that you're looking for, what city or what state. Certainly permanent, temporary, we talked about these, so you can certainly narrow down your search for the kinds of jobs that you're interested in. So use the search parameters in the outreach database, and then also use them here in USAJobs to help you make sure that you are seeing all the jobs that come available. And again, I would do this weekly if you are serious about getting a job, particularly when you start looking for permanent jobs. Doing this weekly is going to make sure that you stay on top of all the jobs that are available. Okay. Alrighty. Next we're going to go into the tips. I'm going to make sure, check in here with Zoom. Okay, I was going to make sure there wasn't a question that came over Zoom while we were at it. Okay, so again, this document is right here. So you're welcome to go and download that or just have that available. Okay. All right, so here's the top resume building tips. So the first one is to start early, and that is to, in USAJobs, there is a place where you actually start a profile. And so I highly recommend you get your profile established in USAJobs. And I'm serious, do it now. Don't wait till the day the advertisement comes out, because it can get really frustrating if something happens. You know how technology can be, right? So I always say, start early. Doesn't hurt to get started now and build your profile now, okay? And so the next, it goes right into the next tip, which is that I highly suggest that you create a resume using the resume builder inside of USAJobs, okay? It's completely fine for you to apply for a job and attach your resume that you've built on, you know, a Word document and convert it to a PDF. It's completely fine to upload that PDF into your application rather than use the resume builder. It's fine to do that, but I actually suggest you use the resume builder for two reasons, okay? One is it puts it in a format that our hiring managers are used to seeing, okay? So why buck the system? Why don't you just give it to us the way we like to see it, right? Okay? Don't get creative, just give it to us the way we like it, all right? Just the fact of the matter, right? All right, and the second reason is then you won't miss anything, okay? You would be surprised how many resumes that I review for people and they have missed some key things in their resume. It just didn't occur to them to include it, and it's really critical for federal jobs. And I'm going to go over those two things, the most common mistakes right here. Okay, so the first one is that people do not include dates in their past work experience. And I just find that amazing. They'll just list it, and sometimes they'll put year, but they won't put month or year, okay? It's really important that you put at least month and year. If you can, start tracking month, day, day, month, year, however you want to put it. I guess you can put it in there however you want. But just start doing that, making a habit of keeping track of those dates while you're young, while you still haven't had a whole lot of work experience, and you can keep track of that sort of thing instead of having to go back looking through your records. And here's why that's valuable. And I'm going to go through this here as I've got it written. So a lot of the positions actually require, let's go to this example down here. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. So to qualify for a forestry technician, and it doesn't matter if it's, you know, fire, recreation, trails, whatever, forestry technicians actually have a job series called a 462. You'll see that when you start searching for jobs. 462 is a really common job series for forestry technicians. Okay, so say you want to apply for a GS4, okay? I'm also going to open up the GS qualification standards, because you asked me. This right here, this website, helps you understand the GS. So GS is General Schedule. It is our pay schedule, okay? In fact, if you wanted to Google GS pay schedule, it would give you a table so you could see what each of the GSs make per hour or yearly. So for the most part, you all will likely qualify for a GS3. Most college students do. It requires 6 months of general work experience, a high school equivalent, and or 1 year above high school. So most of you fit in that category, I'm assuming, correct? Yeah. So 6 months of general work experience can be Starbucks, McDonald's, working on your parents' ranch, you know, any of those kinds of things. That is definitely general experience. But say you wanted to qualify for a GS5. I get a lot of college students wanting to apply for a GS5, and we're going to go down here to all positions. So it requires, it doesn't actually, you don't have to have any general experience. What it requires is 1 year equivalent to a GS4. What is a GS4? 1 year of experience here. And so you essentially need to be able to show that you have 1 year of experience. And so to do that, you need month and year for your previous work experience so we can add up the months, right? You've been working in the summertime up till now, right? So we need to be able to add up those months to determine whether you have a year's worth of experience or not to meet the GS4. Now does that click? Now do you understand why it's really important? And it can be to the point where it's important for you to have, the date and the month and the year, because we truly are going to add those things up to make sure that you meet those qualifications. Okay, so yeah, I think I just explained that. All right, did I answer your question about GSs too? More or less. I didn't put the pay scale up for you though, did I? But you can Google that. Yeah.
They want work experience in the field of which you're applying for?
So general experience, if it says general, 1 year, 6 months, no. It can be, like I said, McDonald's, Starbucks, it could be anything. So some of the positions, particularly when you graduate and you're starting to look at these professional level positions, some of them are going to require what they call relevant work experience, okay? And relevant work experience will be relevant to natural resources. Or if you're applying for fire positions, it's got to be fire type of work, okay? Well, what's nice is some of you actually probably have relevant work experience and you don't even realize it. So I had mentioned working on your dad's ranch, or any ranch work is definitely relevant work experience. Maybe you volunteered with the MCC crew. That is definitely relevant work experience, okay? Maybe, you dug ditches and put up fences for summer. That's relevant work experience, okay? Relevant to the job that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a forestry technician in trails, then certainly work that has to do with the kinds of tools that we use, the kind of other things that we use in trail work, which again is a great question for your hiring manager. Do you use stock for trails? And if you've got stock experience, pack experience, you've ridden horses before, that's relevant work experience, and you better put it on your resume, right? So that's the kind of information gathering that you're seeking so that you can obviously do the best job you can on your resume. I have some more tips on that too.
We have a ecological sciences and restorations degree where students work out on a project where they help design a restoration project, but it's classwork. Could they claim that as work experience?
Yeah, I would, especially if that's all you've got. I would definitely take advantage of that. And yeah, it might only be, a week's worth or something along those lines, but at least it shows, that you have actually worked with your hands, you've actually constructed something, you've actually, done some relevant work natural resource-wise. I think that's fair game. Now, when you graduate and you've been in the workforce a couple of years, doing some temporary, summer stuff, yeah, I don't think you need that anymore. So just be realistic about, okay, I need it now, but 4 years from now you won't. It'll look silly on your resume, right? Okay, so just be mindful of that. All right, so the other piece that people forget all the time is salary, okay? So you definitely got to put salary in there because, remember what we read over here? It's got to be 1 year equivalent to at least a GS4. How do you think we determine what a GS4 is if you've never worked for the Forest Service? Salary. Yeah, salary and the description of work, that you did. So there are a lot of ranch kids that can qualify for a GS4 right off the bat because they have the relevant work experience, they've worked with tools, they've done a ton of that kind of similar experience, but they also get paid really well, okay? So salary is really important. So I get this question a lot. Well, what if I volunteered, or what if it was class work that I didn't get paid for? Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to just make your best guess at what grade level that is. And you put that in your resume along with the work, description. You put that this is equivalent to a GS3, which I'm assuming that work is for that class would be at least, a GS3. Okay, you just use your best guess. Don't don't oversell yourself here, but definitely, make sure you're claiming that, hey, this volunteer work that I did, you know, it was good stuff, and it's at least a GS3. So list that, and you're being very honest. Yeah, I didn't get paid for it, but it's equivalent to a GS3. Got that? Good stuff, right? I'm going to skip over this next one because it, for the most part, doesn't affect you guys, other than what I want to say here is it doesn't matter if you have one semester or if you are just about to graduate, you need to include a transcript with every application, okay? And they can be, they don't have to be official transcripts, okay? They can just be copies of unofficial ones that you've kept and kept current. So keep them current, keep them coming to your inbox or however you get them nowadays. But definitely include a transcript. And so the reason why is because you need to take credit for that. You need to take credit for those college courses that could be relevant to the job that you're applying for, okay? So this guy back here, I'm going to pick on him because I like silviculturists and, yes, kindred spirits, right? So your coursework, I'm assuming, has got a lot of forestry and silviculture stuff to it. And if you apply for a GS4, forestry tech and silviculture, you are going to definitely want to show that coursework that you've done, that you can do tree identification. You know the difference between, xylem and phloem. You know stuff. And so you need to be able to include that in your resume, okay? So what that means is you don't need to list the college courses in your resume because you've got the transcript to go with it. Yeah?
I just had a question on their opinion this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the complete transcript, obviously, I just felt like that was a way that whereas I looked at graduating with an transcript, obviously
Yeah.
graduating in December, right? When I'll get transcript, like, how does that weird feel? Like, those information, I've been trying to find a lot of different jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. I highly doubt that it is because we understand how long it can take. And so as long as you're putting, expected graduation date is this, and then you definitely do. And you can include it, and I'm going to talk about cover letters, but you can include that in your cover letter. Again, I expect to graduate December such 2017. My current transcript is included, but it does not include my final semester. Very easy to put. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we design a lot of our jobs now because we understand this situation. So again, it can be an unofficial transcript, but if that degree is required for you to actually qualify for that job, then we will wait and get that official transcript and then offer you the job afterwards. Okay, great question. I get asked this a lot. Oh, was there another one? Oh, thank you. I was really hoping you guys would let me know that. Is it possible to add multiple transcripts? I think I had a problem trying to do this. It should not be a problem. There, at the very end, when you are applying through USAJobs, you can upload miscellaneous documents, and that's where you would add more of your transcripts. Is there? So I get it. I went to 3 universities. I get it. So yeah. So hopefully that will answer. Okay, you're welcome. I'm glad you guys are using that tool. And thank you for letting me know it's coming in. All right. Is there a page limit or a rule of thumb on how long your resume should be? With the Forest Service, I'm not going to talk about any other federal agency because I don't know, but for the Forest Service, we would actually rather see a lengthier resume than a shorter one. Okay, this is not corporate America. You don't need to keep it to 1 page. If you do that, you are selling yourself short. Okay, so I would say for most of you in this room, because you all look very young to me, most of you are going to have a 2 to 3 page resume. That's all good, okay? So your length of your resume is going to be dependent on how long you've been in the workforce. So, when you guys have been in the workforce for 10, 15, 20 years, obviously your resume is going to be much longer, and that's okay, okay? We do not freak out with a 15-page resume. We don't, if somebody has the work experience to go with it. Mm-hmm.
And I've been stated in my resume for that position. Should I not do that?
No. You were jumping ahead. Doggone ya. I'll get there in a second. The answer is yes, you should be, but I'm going to talk about why here in just a second. Let me make sure I've fully made it through this tip here. Yeah, don't cheat yourself on including all of your relevant work experience, and then definitely for the work experience that you do have, particularly because you guys are young, you haven't had very many jobs in the workforce yet, make sure you include all those duties. You know, don't skip anything. Be very descriptive with the job duties that you've had in your previous work experience. It's really important that you do that, okay? All right. Tailor your resume specific to the job you're applying to. Thank you for that lead-in. So another nice thing about Resume Builder and USAJobs, it does let you have 5 different resumes in there. And you probably should be using those if you're applying to different kinds of jobs, okay? So the most relevant for you right now is maybe you're going to apply for a firefighting job, you know, a trails job, and a weed tech. Maybe you're going to apply for all 3 of those kinds of positions. And you've had a little bit of background in all 3 of those. So yeah, you would probably want 3 different resumes. But in particular, after you graduate, if you've got one of those degrees that you could be a botanist, or you could be a forester, or maybe you even qualify to be a biologist, you most definitely will want 3 different resumes. And here's why, okay? What I want you to do is to crosswalk your job with the position that you're applying to with the job duties that are listed in that position, okay? So there's 2 places where you can find the job description. I'm going to go back to the outreach database. In the outreach database, if we were to find some permanent jobs in here and go and look at them, I told you that a lot of times here at the end there'll be a document attached, particularly for permanent jobs. And in that document, it's going to describe the job duties for that particular job. So that's one place to find it before it gets advertised. The other place is USAJobs. So every job that we advertise is going to have a job description or job duties. It's going to have at least a paragraph in there. So I want you to take every phrase in that job duties description, every phrase, and make sure that if you have any relevant experience, knowledge, skills, or abilities relevant to that particular phrase in that job duty description, and crosswalk it to your resume. Okay? Make it very clean and very easy to see. There is no doubt you have experience for all those things listed in that job duty description. Now maybe you don't have all the experience necessary, you know, for that particular job duty, and we get it. I mean, you're young, you're trying to build that experience, and that's part of it too. So where you have it, definitely use that and explain that very well in your resume. Make sure that that's connected to your previous work experience history and the descriptions. Okay, questions on that? Did I answer yours? Yeah, she's doing good. I don't know why it has these red lines on here. That's really weird. Yeah, all right. So what's next? References. I see resumes where they've got 12 references or they've listed 5. You know, so people ask me, well, how many references should we include? And here's the reality for the Forest Service, particularly in Region 1. We don't call your references. I know. Sorry. You know why? Because you're only going to list the people that are going to say good things about you, right? Duh, right? We get it. So we might call them to find out some more information about who else we should call. But more than likely what we're going to do is we're going to go to your work experience blocks in your resume, and we're going to look for your previous supervisor, and we're going to call that supervisor and talk to that supervisor for sure, but we're probably going to also ask that supervisor, you know, who else can we talk to? So we always want to talk to previous supervisors, previous colleagues, and if you've been a supervisor, we definitely want to talk to individuals that you have supervised in the past, okay? So be mindful of that. As you're working out there, be prepared. We are going to dig and go find people that you have not listed on your resume to talk to. So history matters. Don't burn bridges. History matters. Yes?
Can you say, should they be concerned about cultivating a relationship with their faculty as references, or is the course likely to go that direction, or more the employer direction?
We tend to go more the employer direction, quite honestly. And that's because we want a real sense of what are you going to be like on the fire line, on high-stress situations. So we're going to try to go and visit with people that have supervised you in similar kinds of jobs. Okay, that's generally why. Now, if for some reason, you don't have a whole lot of work history, and that's all we have to do is to call references, then we will. We obviously will do some background work to find some other individuals. But if all we have available is references, they're there, and we'll use them for sure. So what I just said is more applicable to permanent positions than it is temporary positions. And the reason for that is because typically we've got tons of temporary jobs to get filled, and we just don't always have time to go and find, a supervisor, a colleague, and a previous person that you've supervised. We don't always have time. So generally, we will start with your previous supervisors. We'll start there and then go from there and determine, how much we need to follow up and find out about you before we hire you. But we do take temporary hiring very seriously. We don't like hiring folks that are going to be problems, and so we try to not do that and find the best quality folks we can. Okay, so here's some other things to include in your resume. So it's a good idea to list titles and completion dates of relevant training courses, things like first aid. If you are an EMT, most definitely put that in there. That's really nice. We like EMTs, particularly for fire jobs, so love that. So training courses, I'm not talking about college courses, training type courses that you may or may not have. If you've got them, definitely include them. We do like to see some job-related honors, some awards, some leadership activities that you might have been in, some skill sets maybe that you have that might help set you apart from other people that are applying for jobs. But certainly this is not a place to put your extracurricular activities that you did in high school. I would say for all of you, you don't need to list much about high school, unless you're a freshman, okay? You need to start pulling away from your high school list of things that you included in your resume and start really building them as adults, as professionals in particular, okay? All right. Questions on any of that? All right, cover letters. People ask me this all the time too. Should I include a cover letter? They're not required for Forest Service jobs. But my take on this is, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take advantage of having one more piece of paper that you could actually talk about yourself a little bit more, okay? So it's silly not to. And I get it, if you're pressed for time and you don't have a chance to put one together, I get it. But for the next job that you do have time for, definitely put cover letters together. And your cover letters should be specific to each and every job you're applying to, okay? Don't use the same general single one, unless it's, I'm applying for a GS3 firefighter and I'm applying to, 10 different locations around the region. Then certainly you can use the same cover letter for that. But if you're going to apply for a fire job, a silviculture job, and a weed tech job, yeah, you're probably going to want to have a different cover letter. And here's why, okay? So in your cover letter, it's good to include things, well, let me start out. Don't summarize your resume in your cover letter, okay? We can read your resume, so we don't need a summary of it in your cover letter. Don't do that to us. But the things that you can talk about is who you are as a person, things that aren't in your resume. Here's my goals, here's my aspirations, here's what I want to be when I grow up, here's how this job is going to fit into this, here's why this location really appeals to me, okay? You can talk about a little bit about your hobbies, a little bit about just who you are as a person. Tell us something interesting about yourself, okay, that's not on your resume. That's essentially the best thing you can do in your cover letter. And then the other best thing that you can do in your cover letter, because you've all called your hiring manager for the job you're applying to, right? Yes, Amber, yes, we're going to do that. So reference your call or your visit with that hiring manager in that cover letter. So once again, you're connecting the dots. Your resume with a name, with a voice, okay? They remember who you were when you called. As soon as you know about that job, you know, you found it on the outreach database, you heard about it from me or someone, you know, in career services. As soon as you found out about it, call that hiring manager. Don't wait, okay? There's no perfect time. The perfect time is to do it right away, okay? All right. Oh, and keep your cover letter brief. This is the place where you only want it one page, okay? And you don't want it with, you know, small margins and 10 font, okay? Don't try to write a book in your one page. Keep it brief. Keep it, you know, light. Keep it so that it's something we want to read. It looks good, one page, okay? All right, so the goal in your resume and in your cover letter too is to demonstrate that you meet the minimum qualifications for the job. So in USAJobs, for every single job that is advertised there, it lists, and usually it's on the right-hand side, it's in a box even. They may have changed it up now, but it seems like that's where it used to be. But it lists the minimum qualifications that you must have to apply for this job and be considered for this job. So that's the goal, is to be able to clearly show that, yes, I met the minimum qualifications. And here's the thing, if you don't meet the minimum qualifications, do not waste your time applying for that job, okay? We're not corporate America, where we go, oh, this guy's right on the bubble, you know, we'll go ahead and consider him, okay? We can't do that. We actually have to only consider those that meet the minimum qualifications, okay? So you want to make sure that your resume clearly demonstrates that you've met the minimum qualifications. But here's the other piece of it too, is it's one thing to meet the minimum qualifications, but it's another thing to be competitive. Okay, they're two very different things. So I talked about sometimes we'll have 30 or 200 people applying for the job. So you could have 200 people that meet the minimum qualifications and are competing for that job. So what you're trying to do with your resume, with your specific talent, skills, abilities, knowledge, education, well, all of that, including your personality and maybe something else that sets you apart from everyone else, is to be as competitive as you can for those jobs. Okay, so that's the other level. You got to meet the minimum qualifications. You got to build a resume that does that clearly. But you also got to build a resume that's as competitive as possible. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah, they do. They don't go forward. So if you get back home and you get frustrated or you just have more questions, if you want to talk about career planning with the Forest Service, that's my email. Drop me an email and let's visit offline. You're welcome to send me your resume and I'll review it, see if there's any holes. If you have questions about what jobs you qualify for and what you don't qualify for, you got to send me your resume so that I get a sense of what you've done in the past, but I'll help you determine whether or not you qualify or not, okay? So I'm a resource for you, and you're welcome to take advantage of that and to share that information with your friends. Okay? So other questions? Did I run over time? Doing pretty good, huh? Okay. Seriously, I did good, huh? Answered your questions? That's a first. Oh, good. Oh, I am here until 2:30. So yes, this is another time where you can just take advantage of me being here and being available to answer whatever or look at resumes or whatever. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
I'll let you stop the recording and then I'll go do the same in Zoom.